Hey guys, so today we're talking about how to choose a piano mover. So like a local mover that would move your piano, and I guess this would apply to long distance as well. But the first thing that you need to know is that moving a piano is nothing like moving other items in your house. Typically to move a sofa or a dresser, you just need two strong guys that can carry it. That's not how you move a piano. A piano actually takes about a 35-step process just to get the piano ready to move, and the same thing once it's moved to get it set back up and ready to go. It's a very particular process, and in my experience, most movers don't know how to do it properly. Typically, you have a mover that's a commercial mover or residential mover that has moved some pianos, or you have piano movers, right? That's what they do all the time, right? So typically you're going to want to check these guys out and make sure that they know what they're talking about and know how to actually move a piano, have the proper equipment, or else you could have a big problem. All right, so one of those things is piano movers have different equipment than regular movers, especially when you're talking about moving grand pianos. A grand piano has a specific way of moving it. I have videos on YouTube where I demonstrate the proper technique. You're welcome to check those out. But in general, what you're trying to do is you have to take the piano apart. You have to take the legs, pedals off of the piano. You have to put it on some special equipment to move it. You move it on its side. You don't move it horizontally. You move it flipped up vertically. So you have to have specific equipment that will handle that, right? So you definitely want to kind of ask questions like, hey, how do you move the piano? You want to look on the company's website and see if they have pictures showing them move the piano, right? Are they using what's called a grand board, which is a board that the piano is strapped to? There's also grand covers that wrap the entire piano that you can move them with. But in general, they're going to have some specific equipment that allows them to move the piano properly. So one of the other things you want to check out is, are they licensed? So what do I mean by that? So the way that moving is licensed or regulated is that typically locally there is no licensing or regulation. So if you just have a guy that moves some pianos, he's probably not licensed, to be honest with you. Check him out, see if he is or not. The next step up from that is being licensed by the state. That means that he can move pianos within the state that he's in. You know, different states have different licensing for that. You can kind of check that out. The next thing is he licensed to move interstate? In other words, across state lines. So in order to do that, you have to be issued what's called operating authority from the U.S. Department of Transportation. There's an application process, and one of the things that they do is they make sure that, okay, you have to prove to them and your insurance company, if you're a piano mover or residential mover, commercial mover, doesn't matter, you have to provide the government with proof of insurance. So they know that you're not moving stuff around and you're not insured, right? And literally you have to file that with the government so that if for some reason a moving company stops making their payments, their policies gets canceled, well, the insurance company is required by law to let the U.S. Department of Transportation know that, and then they'll revoke what's called your operating authority. The way to know whether a company has that or not, in other words, they have the licensing and the ability to move across state lines, is they will have what's called an MC number, right? Now, every vehicle has a US DOT number. Any commercially run vehicle on public roads has got to have that number, but not all of them have an MC number, right? So the MC number stands for motor carrier number, and you're issued that by the Department of Transportation once you go through a fairly lengthy application process, which does include the insurance requirement and all the things that we're talking about earlier. So check and make sure if you're having your piano moved interstate, the company must have an MC number, and you can use that number to find out lots of things about them, their insurance company, their safety record, things like that are available with the use of that number. Another good indicator of whether or not they know what they're doing is, do they have any affiliations? In other words, are they a member of any associations like the American Moving and Storage Association, called AMSA, right? Their certifications, for example, companies have what's called pro mover status, which means that, hey, they've, presented evidence and they've been in business long enough and they've been examined by this association to make sure they're living up to a higher standard of moving. So check that out. There are state associations as well, but that's definitely in your favor if the company you're looking at has those. If the company you're looking at doesn't have an MC number, no affiliations, Another thing is how long have they been in business? How long have they been conducting, piano moving business in the area that they're in? If it's a couple years, you know what I mean? You might want to look for somebody with a little more experience, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. Usually if a company's been going for say 10 years or better, they can't consistently make huge mistakes and rip off customers and continue to do business. It's economically not possible. So if they've been around for a little while, that's a good indicator. You can call, say, if you have a piano retail company, a piano store that sells pianos in your area, you can call them for a referral. More than likely, they'll have a company that does their deliveries, and if they're going to trust their new piano deliveries to this company, it's a good bet you can trust them as well. The other thing is, reviews, things like that on the internet are pretty good indicators, but I think people nowadays rely on that too heavily. And quite frankly, a company could start up, say, and a month later, they've got 50 reviews because they've called every friend and family member they know to put a positive review on. I mean, it may look like, oh yeah, this is an established company, but I recommend digging a little deeper, doing some research. Again, a good referral from a company that does piano moving is a great way to go. Another resource is piano technicians, piano tuners. Often they have to have pianos moved to their shop to do work on them, so they're going to have someone, generally speaking, that is going to be their go-to guy for moving their pianos for them. They can give you a good referral there, right? So definitely do your research. Look at the pictures, ask questions. We're gonna cut and go to a piano that I actually own in my house, and we'll go over like some of the things about a piano that make it different than, say, an average piece of furniture. Okay, so we're here with my personal piano in my living room, and I just kind of wanted to point out a couple things about the piano itself that make it different from any other type of furniture, especially like the weight. So just a quick look at the piano. You can see, I mean, this one's about 6 feet long. It has 3 legs, it has pedals on it. And the first red flag, if you have a piano mover and it looks like the guys are gonna try and pick the piano up and actually carry it as is, immediate red flag. That's not how you move a piano. Trust me, I've seen some crazy things out there. People try all types of things because if they don't know, their movers are gonna say, yeah, sure, we move pianos. They're like, it's just another big thing. We move big stuff all the time, but it's definitely different. This piano actually has to be taken apart, the legs and pedals taken off of it. And one of the things you'll notice is that a piano has a straight side over here on the left and a curved side on the right. So essentially what happens is we put the piano down on that side, of course with some protective equipment to protect it, and we flip the piano up and actually move the piano vertically versus horizontally like this, right? So that's the first thing. You have to have the proper equipment. You have to know how to do this without destroying the piano, right? So the biggest thing I would say that separates this from any other type of furniture is I want to bring you in here. So here inside the piano, every piano has this, right? Some people call it the plate. It's also been called the harp. There's lots of different names for it, but essentially this piece of the piano is made from cast iron. So you can imagine how heavy a cast iron skillet is, or say an engine block. Well, this is all cast iron, and this is what adds the tremendous weight to the piano. This can weigh 400 pounds by itself, not including the rest of the instrument, right? So every piano has this because they have to have the metal in here to hold the string tension to make the piano work, right? So that's the biggest reason that a piano weighs so much more than, say, a piece of furniture that's roughly the same size. It's going to weigh 3 times more, right? So that's a big thing. Now, additionally, there's specific things about the piano that only, guys that know how to move pianos will be able to handle when it comes time to moving it. Protecting the keys, protecting the inside of the piano. There's lots of moving mechanisms. But the biggest thing is that you have the proper equipment and the skill level. Like I mentioned before earlier, it's about a 35-step process just to get this piano packed up and ready to go. Please check out our website. We have lots of pictures of the pianos packed up, and we have the proper equipment, proper guys. I would not recommend that you try and move a piano yourself. Anything else in the house can be handled fairly easily, but moving a grand piano, I'd leave that to the experts. So just give us a call, or like I said, try and find a good local piano mover using the tips that I gave you earlier. Good luck.